Hello and welcome to another class of the Scriptcase Fundamentals training. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make changes to the various export settings within the Grid application. This does also apply to other applications which have the export feature available, such as the form or chart application. During this class, I will continue with the same grid we had used previously. The export options in the Grid application are widely used by end users. At the moment, there are 8 different export formats. They are email, PDF, Word, CSV, Excel, XML, Print HTML, and RTF, each one with their own settings. Before making any changes to the application, I'm going to show you how the exports are by default in the generated Grid application. Running the grid we had previously, and we will recognize it immediately. At the top we have our bar, which includes the export button. Clicking this will expand and display us the various export options which have been enabled for this grid application. On click, a modal window is then displayed to the end user, where they can define how the selected report is going to be generated. In these settings, the user will be able to define if the print will be black and white or in color. They can change the page layout, the orientation, and if each page will display the available header and footer. You can also define which columns will be exported. This option is available in all export formats except RTF. There are further options which are also available, which are currently not enabled. So let's go check them out within Scriptcase and return back to the Grid application. Within the left-hand menu, Grid, and there below you will find the option Export. Clicking that will expand and provide the various export options available. There we have email, which allows us to configure the email sending configuration. Here we can also use an API for sending emails. Below that we have further export types such as the PDF, Word, CSV, Excel, and so forth. Selecting one of these will present the relevant details and settings available for the export. The PDF export within Scriptcase includes some options that were added in Scriptcase 9. Let's check out some of those main features. You can define a password for the generated PDF. By applying a password to the PDF, only people with the password will be able to access its contents. This option is available for all export options except the Print HTML and RTF. The Select Columns option allows the end user to choose which columns will be part of the export. This option is available in every export type. The PDF Chart Depth Output Selection option defines if the user will be able to define the depth of the graphs generated in the application. This option will only be useful if you have the graphs option active in the grid. Selecting page break per level allows the end user to set up what grouping level will jump to the next page in the generated PDF. And the Open PDF Directly option allows to open the PDF without having to pass through that intermediary screen. Below the general settings, there are the default value options that will be available to the end user to choose from. You can define if they are able to configure their own PDF or not. Below that is a double select to define which settings the end user will be able to change and configure when viewing the Grid application, allowing the end user to have their own personalized view of the provided data. Within the PDF export settings, you will also find specific options such as records per page, rows per page in the summary, and if it will complete the lines on a PDF page until the footer. You can customize the format of the page numbers as well as the position of the page numbers within the PDF, for example top left or bottom right. The PDF margins can be defined in millimeters, allowing for precise measurements. The print background option here will disable the PDF background on print. The JS execution time setting is responsible for defining how much time in milliseconds the application will wait for the JavaScript execution before timing out during the PDF generation. This timeout option can also be defined for the chart images. The next export types have some options in common, so I will focus just on those that are not common and that I have not shown you already. In the CSV settings, you can define the line separator, the column separator, text delimiter, as well as add the label to exported buttons. In the Excel export options, you can specify what formats the exported file will be, XLSX or XLS, and also disable the export of totals. The XML option allows you to define the XML format, if it will use attributes or tags, and you can also use labels on the tag or attribute field. For the print HTML option, you can define if it will print the current page or the full report, as well as define if the export will be black and white or in full color. The top email export option is for sending the exported file via email to a previously defined API. You can define the required settings by selecting the custom option. Doing so will display the required API settings, which gateway you are going to use, the SMTP server, SMTP port, user, password, protocol, as well as the sender email and name. After you have set the API settings, you can define the export settings below. Here you can define options such as the email receiver, if it will send copies to other receivers, or if it will be a blind carbon copy. You can specify the email subject as well as the email body. Within each of these fields, you can also use global variables, which makes it possible for you to define each of these settings dynamically. To do that, you would use the available events. For more information, do please visit our website on how to do this as well as other topics. Thank you for watching this part of the Scriptcase Fundamentals training. I hope to see you again soon in the next class.